Hey guys, what's up? Daniel here with Dark Gadgets, and today we're doing a review of the new AT&T Samsung Galaxy S5. The Galaxy S5 looks slightly different than its predecessor. On the front of the device, we have a new and larger 5.1-inch 1920 by 1080p Super AMOLED display, which does increase the size of the device a little bit, but everything looked really nice and crisp. We also have a 2-megapixel front-facing camera, the home button with a fingerprint reader built into it, and 2 capacitive touch buttons. Turning the device over on its back, we have a new soft touch dimpled back that looks and feels more premium than the back of the Galaxy S4. We also have a 16-megapixel camera that is capable of recording in 4K, a heart rate monitor, an AT&T logo, a Galaxy S5 logo, and the speakers, which I personally thought aren't in the best position, especially when you're playing games or watching movies without headphones. I found myself having to cup my hand to hear better or hold the phone in a certain way to not muffle the sound. Heading to the bottom of the device, we have the micro USB port, which is now covered for protection against dust and water. Then on the left, we have the volume rocker, on the right the sleep and wake button, and at the top we have an IR blaster and a 3.5mm headphone jack. The Galaxy S5 is slightly larger in size than the Galaxy S4. It has a metal looking plastic that wraps around the device, which seems like it'll rub off over time, but the device in general doesn't feel awkward to hold. You can certainly use the device with one hand, especially if you hold it a certain way or if you turn on a setting that allows you to shrink the size of the screen, but odds are that you'll end up using both hands to operate the device. And even though the design is not drastically different to that of the S4, I personally prefer the new soft touch back and overall feel of the phone. The back cover of the phone is removable, and it actually has a rubber lining that protects the internals from getting destroyed by water. The phone is IP67 rated, so it can be submerged in water down to 1 meter for half an hour and be fine. Inside of the phone, there is also a 2800 mAh battery, a Snapdragon 801 processor, 2 GB of RAM, and 16 GB of storage, but there is also a slot for adding up to a 128 GB micro SD card. The Galaxy S5 runs Android 4.4.2 KitKat, but it also has Samsung's latest version of TouchWiz, which has been cleaned up and improved over the past few years, but I still find it not nearly as good as HTC's Sense or just flat out KitKat. The Snapdragon 801 chip does help the software run games like Asphalt 8 and FIFA 14 nicely, and the overall experience when scrolling and using the device was very smooth. The Galaxy S5 comes pre-installed with S Health, which can be used to track steps, calories burned or eaten, and your heart rate. The step tracking feature wasn't very accurate since it would count small movements as steps, but one of the more talked about features has been the heart rate sensor, which can easily tell your heart rate after a few taps through the app and holding your index finger on the back of the phone for a few seconds. It's certainly a neat feature, but not something that's unique at all, since it could easily be done on a phone that has flash and a camera by simply downloading an app. Samsung also added a magazine feature that is to the far left of the home screen, which is basically just like HTC's Blink feed. It allows you to add your social networks and different news categories, but I didn't find myself using it at all. If I wanted to read any news, I would just use the regular Flipboard app or an RSS reader. The device comes with all the usual Google apps pre-installed like Gmail, Chrome, and Maps, as well as some carrier apps, which in this case we have AT&T's Navigator, Locker, and Drive mode. Aside from that, we have a lot of small features that many users will probably never use. There are a lot of settings everywhere, and it just feels like Samsung just throws these features in for advertisement purposes, or they just hope some users will enjoy some of them. There's nothing that innovative that I feel would make justice to upgrade from the S4. I got tired of the fingerprint reader after the first week, since it was more of an inconvenience most of the time. Whenever I wanted to open the phone quickly, I would have to correctly position my finger and slide it the right way for it to be read. As mentioned before, there's a 16 megapixel camera on the back of this phone, and it takes some really great pictures. The autofocus is extremely quick, but it sometimes fails to focus on what I was trying to focus. You'll see that in some of the pictures. I tested it against the iPhone 5S, and the S5 sometimes did take better pictures, but other times the 5S got the better picture. Videos on this phone also look pretty good, and it's also capable of recording at 4K resolution, and even though it can do that, you're probably not going to end up using it since that feature is only good if you need to zoom into your video later on. The S5's 2800 mAh battery won't have you worrying about your phone's battery running out throughout the day. It consistently lasted me about a full day of heavy usage, and when I didn't use it much, it lasted me into the next day without charging. At one point, I made it to the last 3 days with notifications and occasional email and social network usage. If you come to a point where your S5's battery is about to run out, you can activate an ultra power saving mode, which will leave only the basic functions. And this is really a welcome feature, since this is exactly what I've needed in the past, when after a really long day without any chargers, and you never really know when you're going to need that extra little bit of battery to send a text message or make an important phone call. All in all, nearly every aspect of the Galaxy S5 is better than its predecessor, but the same can't be said when comparing it to the new HTC One or even the iPhone 5s and Nexus 5, all three of which, in my opinion, have a better build quality and, of course, their own pros and cons. That said, this phone has a great camera, handles games and apps without any problems, and the battery will easily last you a full day. And then on top of it all, it's water resistant. So there's definitely no doubt that this is an awesome phone, but if you have a Galaxy S4 and are not urging a need of an upgrade, I recommend you wait and see what Google will announce at I/O, what Apple will announce at WWDC, or for Samsung to announce the Galaxy S6. This phone is available for $200 on a 2-year contract or around $650 off contract in black or white. Thank you for watching this video and AT&T for letting us borrow the device to review. If you have any questions, feel free to contact me and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. Other than that, make sure to subscribe for future content and we'll catch you guys in the next video. Goodbye.